So Gino requested separate rooms, which really broke my heart because even though that is like the situation that we have at home, it breaks my heart to know that even on this trip on Valentine's Day, he wanted that. But
she didn't quit. She didn't get written out. Jasmine Pineda, the same Jasmine who drove up episode ratings, trended on socials, and turned boring cast dinners into viral chaos, was quietly fired. Not temporarily, not for storyline balance, fired. And the real reason wasn't the tantrums you saw on screen. It was what she was doing when the cameras weren't rolling that made production call emergency meetings behind the scenes. You're watching TLC Drama Live. I'm Sabrina, and if you think you've seen the full story, think again. Go ahead, subscribe now and hit the comments, because what you're about to hear may flip your entire opinion of Jasmine Pineda upside down. Her followers still think she walked away because she was done being exploited, that it was mutual. It wasn't. TLC didn't just cut ties, they shut doors behind her, blocked spin-offs, scrubbed mentions. Behind that silence is a file of warnings, complaints, and financial chaos that pushed the network to cut their top performer loose. Slowly, strategically, almost like they were trying to avoid something worse. Because in public, she played the misunderstood icon. But in private, producers were dealing with someone who allegedly weaponized her popularity against the very people giving her airtime. It didn't happen overnight. At first, they gave her the benefit of the doubt. Every meltdown, good for ratings. Every outburst, viral gold. But then she started skipping call times, demanding editing rights, posting cryptic stories meant to throw production off its rhythm. That's not personality anymore, that's control. And the truth is, TLC gave her rope. They always do. They want fire, they want friction, they want chaos that feels unpredictable but stays shootable. Jasmine took that and tested how far she could push, not in the usual cast drama way, in ways that made crew members stop trusting her, in ways that made producers nervous about what might hit the internet next. It wasn't just messy, it was risky. What if the person who gave you your best episodes also held the power to leak scripts, twist timelines, and blow up deals before they aired? The scary part? She knew it. And the scarier part? She used it. She allegedly held her own show hostage, refused to shoot unless she was paid more, threatened to outproduce her conversations if her scenes didn't get the edits she liked. Publicly, she was sobbing over Gino. Privately, she was allegedly playing power games that made some staff members stop speaking to her completely. And all of this happened while fans kept cheering her on. That's what made the decision harder. She was the attention magnet, the social media darling, the one audiences stuck around for when other couples flatlined. Cutting her wasn't just a loss, it was a risk, because removing Jasmine meant losing guaranteed numbers. That's not something networks do lightly, but they did it, silently, carefully, like they were covering their own tracks too. So now the question isn't, why did Jasmine go too far? The question is, what did TLC see that scared them enough to let her go anyway? At first, the chaos seemed innocent, entertaining even. Jasmine's mood swings felt like part of the brand. High-strung, intense, but never dull. She cried, she screamed, she charmed, she accused. And people loved it. The edits sharpened her into a star. The more unstable she looked, the more stable the ratings felt. That wasn't an accident, but something shifted, and it didn't happen on screen. According to multiple insiders, Jasmine started realizing she wasn't just cast on the show, she was driving it. Every time she blew up, clips trended. Every time she stormed off, discussion exploded online. At some point, the line blurred. This wasn't performance, it was leverage. And once she figured that out, she stopped playing by the rules. She stopped showing up for scheduled shoots, would vanish for hours while crew sat unpaid. She'd agree to scenes, then refuse to say scripted lines unless she got what she wanted. Extra perks, early flights, makeup done her way. She knew she was valuable, and she allegedly used that to hold production hostage. Not dramatically, strategically. They'd reschedule around her, rewrite episodes to accommodate her moods, and every time they did, she got the message. I can break the system and still get rewarded. That's when the behavior escalated. She allegedly began testing how far she could go. First, minor delays, then missed confessionals, then leaked spoilers disguised as fan chatter, little drops of info designed to prove she had inside access. Every time a producer told her no, a suspicious tweet would appear hours later. Coincidence? Maybe. But crew began to notice a pattern. There were whispers of her setting up her own side sponsorships, without approval. Promoting products during filming, taking cash directly, and skipping required disclosure to the network. TLC contracts don't allow that. Not without permission, not unless you want a legal mess. And she knew that, but allegedly, she didn't care. Because by now, fame wasn't just validation, it was control. It was currency. And the more unpredictable she got, the more the network bent around her. She learned what all breakout reality stars eventually learn. If the drama centers around you, the network has a choice. Feed the fire or lose the heat. But Jasmine wasn't interested in balance. She was interested in dominance. The entire cast started to feel like a background act to her show. And that's when relationships started breaking behind the scenes. Some cast members reportedly refused to film if she was in the same room. Gino, her own partner, allegedly walked off set more than once due to off-camera fights the audience never saw. Crew began keeping distance. Certain producers requested not to work on her shoots anymore. Editors complained they had to piece together entire arcs from broken footage because Jasmine would refuse pickups unless her image was protected. What the audience saw as raw authenticity was, behind the scenes, becoming a logistical nightmare. And it wasn't just about her presence anymore, it was the unpredictability. Jasmine allegedly used that unpredictability like a weapon. Not to entertain, but to negotiate. Not to shock, but to pressure. And the pressure worked, until one day it didn't. Because the more the network adjusted to keep her happy, the more unstable the machine itself became. And no one on the outside knew how close it all came to falling apart. There was a point when even the most patient producers stopped calling it attitude. They started calling it a threat. And not in the dramatic, she's a handful way, but in the real, legal, lock the room down kind of way. Because this wasn't Jasmine versus her castmates anymore, this was Jasmine against the people signing her checks, the production team, the legal department, the executives upstairs. And unlike what fans thought, it wasn't petty, it was dangerous. Allegedly. She wasn't just difficult, she was crossing lines that reality TV contracts are built to prevent. But those contracts mean nothing if the person on the other side knows how to flip public opinion with one Instagram story. Inside the network, meetings got tense. This wasn't about cleaning up another yelling match or calming a sobbing cast member after a filmed fight. This was about damage control for someone who had figured out how to weaponize her platform mid-season, who allegedly threatened to leak production timelines unless she got pay raises, who allegedly refused to film until she was promised editing privileges over her own scenes. That's not diva behavior. That's control. And the network was losing it. By the time she showed up to the reunion taping, everyone was on edge. Multiple crew members had already warned production that she'd been agitated. There were rumors she had seen other cast salaries, that she felt underpaid, that she planned to use the reunion as leverage. No one expected what came next. Right before filming, according to insiders, Jasmine allegedly refused to step on stage unless she was handed proof of how much every other lead was being paid. Not just a range, actual numbers, names attached, and when she was denied, she reportedly lost it. Yelling, crying, refusing makeup, threatening to walk off, demanding a call with network execs on speaker. She allegedly said she wouldn't shoot one frame unless she was given what she was owed, and what she was owed, she claimed, was more than anyone else, because she wasn't a star. She was the star. The producers tried to manage it. They always had. But this time, something felt different, because this time, she wasn't hiding it. She wasn't subtle. She allegedly told one staffer she'd leak DMs between herself and a senior producer if her terms weren't met. DMs that, if real, could damage the network's public image. And that's when people stopped treating this like a negotiation. They started treating it like a liability. The entire production slowed down. The room went quiet. Someone made a call. Legal was looped in. They asked for documentation, emails, footage. Security was prepped. Not because Jasmine was violent, but because no one knew what she was capable of once the cameras stopped rolling and her phone started recording. And that night, TLC's legal team reportedly started preparing a contingency plan to remove Jasmine from all future filming. Quietly, completely, and permanently. Once the control battle started slipping out of her hands, Jasmine tried a new weapon, money. Not the kind in her paycheck, but the kind the network didn't know about. According to people close to production, Jasmine began negotiating her own deals on the side. Fitness brands, beauty products, dating apps. She would tag companies mid-season, post stories filmed during TLC's shoot schedule, and pocket the profit, all without clearance. That's a direct contract breach, and she knew it. But by that point, she didn't see the rules as rules anymore. She saw them as obstacles. Crew members noticed she'd show up to filming wearing clothes that matched brands she'd quietly promoted online. When producers asked her to change, she allegedly refused, saying, "I'm giving you free fashion." That wasn't a joke. It was a statement. She believed she was bigger than the show. Then came the leaks. Screenshots of private chats between castmates, hints about scenes that hadn't aired, cryptic captions that mirrored unreleased episode lines. Each one built anticipation online. Fans thought she was spilling tea. What they didn't realize was that every leak made the network's lawyers panic. TLC isn't built for chaos that isn't scripted, and Jasmine had turned spoilers into her own marketing strategy. Internally, her behavior was being tracked. Emails were logged, production calls were recorded. It wasn't about gossip anymore, it was about liability, because every post that went viral put sponsors at risk. Every unapproved deal meant potential lawsuits. But Jasmine wasn't backing down. She had realized something dangerous. If she could rally the audience, she could corner the network. She started posting emotional messages about being mistreated, calling herself the real reason people watched. She liked comments from fans demanding that TLC treat her better. And in subtle ways, she started pushing her followers to question the network itself. This wasn't rebellion for fame anymore. It was revenge through influence. Her followers became her army. Every time a rumor surfaced, they defended her, flooded TLC's accounts, tagged executives. It nice looked like organic fan support. It wasn't. It was pressure. And it worked. Temporarily. Producers hesitated to discipline her, afraid of public backlash. But inside the network, lines were being drawn. Legal reviewed her social media activity. Accounting compared her on-screen wardrobe to brand partnerships. Marketing flagged her unapproved posts as potential sponsor violations. The numbers started stacking, and the risk became impossible to hide. What Jasmine thought was independence looked, to corporate lawyers, like a pattern of deliberate defiance. She was effectively running a side business on the show's time, using their footage to grow her personal brand while cutting them out of the profit. That's when the conversation changed from how do we calm her down to how do we protect the franchise. She believed ratings would save her, that no one would cut off the face of the season. But behind closed doors, executives had already reached a conclusion. The drama that made Jasmine famous had finally crossed into territory where no amount of viewers could shield her. She thought the spotlight made her untouchable. She was wrong. By the time filming wrapped on the mid-season block, the crew was done. Not tired, done. These were people who'd worked 16-hour days on weddings, deportations, and screaming matches for years. But Jasmine was different. She drained everyone in the room. Editors said they needed double the footage just to build a coherent episode. Camera operators started calling her the variable because nothing about her schedule, her mood, or her cooperation could be predicted. Producers kept trying to cover for her. They'd say she was processing or getting into character. But everyone knew the truth. The show had turned into a waiting game. Waiting for her to calm down, show up, or stop crying long enough to deliver a usable line. People began quitting mid-production. Some refused to be assigned to her scenes, others demanded hazard pay for emotional stress. It wasn't a rumor, it was written into production notes. She'd walk onto set late, sometimes hours behind, then accuse the team of sabotaging her lighting. She'd stop takes halfway through to argue with sound techs. Makeup artists described being snapped at, wardrobe assistants walked off, and even junior PAs, who usually take any kind of chaos with a smile, started filing complaints. The set, once buzzing, grew silent when she arrived. What made it worse was the fear. Not of violence, but unpredictability. Crew members whispered about what would happen if she ever decided to film them secretly or post their names online. Some had already seen what she could do with one cryptic story. Careers could crumble from a single caption. That fear turned every shoot into a psychological standoff. Still, the network tried to hold it together. Ratings were strong. Episodes featuring Jasmine brought spikes that no one else could match. But inside the crew chat threads, it was chaos. Missed deadlines, deleted footage, reshoots that cost thousands. People started talking about burnout like it was contagious. One field producer reportedly said, "She's bigger than the show, and that's the problem. We're all extras now." The emotional toll spread to the cast, too. Gino wasn't the same. Their off-camera fights were starting to bleed into other storylines. During interviews, other couples avoided mentioning her name altogether. TLC had to send mediators to smooth tension before group scenes. It wasn't working. The energy had shifted from reality show drama to survival mode. Behind the scenes, senior producers began recording every meeting with her. They were told to document everything in case of future legal claims. Think about that. A TV show turning into a paper trail. When a production hits that point, it's already broken. The night of the reunion taping was the breaking point. No one could predict how far Jasmine would push this time, But everyone had that nervous feeling you get before a storm hits. The staff who'd worked with her longest said nothing out loud. They didn't have to. They all knew the moment was coming when her private defiance would finally explode in public. And when it did, it left the entire studio shaken. The reunion set was tense before she even walked in. Producers whispered in corners, sound techs kept checking their mics, and the cast avoided eye contact. Everyone had been warned. Keep it professional, stay calm, no one feed the chaos. But Jasmine thrived on silence. It meant all eyes were on her. She arrived hours late, head high, no apology. Word spread fast that she'd demanded a private meeting before filming. The crew froze. This wasn't unusual, but the tone was different. One producer said her voice was calm. Too calm. She allegedly asked for proof of everyone else's pay. Not a range, actual numbers. When told that was confidential, she walked out. Minutes later, she came back with her phone recording. "Then I won't film," she allegedly said. The room went still. The network lawyers had been warned this might happen. They'd drafted backup plans, alternate episode endings, even pre-recorded segments with other cast members, just in case she imploded on camera. For nearly an hour, they tried to talk her down. First softly, then firmly. No luck. She demanded a written guarantee of higher pay. She wanted editing approval. She wanted control over what clips TLC posted online. And she wanted it now. Every minute she refused to shoot, the crew burned through money and patience. Finally, someone from production made the call to start without her. That broke the illusion. Jasmine reportedly stormed onto the set mid-taping, interrupting another couple's segment. The cameras kept rolling, but not all that footage ever saw daylight. What was broadcast later looked tense, but manageable. What witnesses say happened next didn't. She allegedly shouted that the show used her, that everyone was nothing without her storylines. Some cast members stood up, others stared at the floor. The director called for a break, but Jasmine didn't stop. She walked off again, crying, yelling about being silenced, about contracts, about betrayal. The live audience, mostly superfans, sat frozen. What was supposed to be entertaining suddenly felt uncomfortable. Even the camera crew put their gear down. That's how you know a scene isn't for TV anymore. It's real. When she finally left, production didn't follow. They didn't chase her like they used to. No, come back, we need this scene. No soft promises, just silence. Within hours, emails went out to legal and upper management. The footage was reviewed, the cost of re-edits calculated. The next morning, the decision was made. TLC was done, the firing didn't happen in front of cameras. It came in the form of an email and a call from her talent liaison. They thanked her for her time. They cited creative direction changes. They never used the word fired, but everyone knew what it meant. She was removed from upcoming shoots. Future contracts were voided. Any talk of spin-offs stopped cold. Inside the office, no one celebrated. It felt like a loss. The person who once electrified the series had become its biggest risk. The quiet came first. Then the reality. She was blacklisted. No cameos, no tell-alls, no spin-offs. The franchise closed its doors around her name, sealing off any trace of what she once was. But Jasmine wasn't done. Not even close. The silence didn't last long. Within days of the firing, Jasmine's social media came alive like a live grenade. Posts vanished, new ones appeared. 1 hour she was crying into the camera about betrayal. The next she was laughing, hinting at truth bombs that would end careers. Fans flooded her comments asking if she was coming back. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Every emoji, every deleted story, every half sentence was bait. Insiders say TLC's phones lit up that week. Screenshots of her posts circulated through legal. Hashtags trended overnight. She never mentioned the network by name, but the timing made it obvious. One post showed her standing in front of production trailers with the caption, "They said I couldn't tell my story." Another, a voice note icon with the words, "Proof ready." Nothing ever got uploaded, but everyone knew the message. She could still hurt them. She allegedly started sending DMs to fan accounts known for spreading leaks. Bits of behind-the-scenes gossip, private text threads, call sheets, some real, some impossible to verify. Within hours, those accounts exploded with exclusive updates about what really happened at the reunion. None of it could be confirmed, but the chaos worked. Her name dominated the algorithm again. Former fans started splitting into camps. One side saw her as a whistleblower exposing network hypocrisy. The other saw someone spiraling, addicted to attention, lashing out at the people who made her famous. Comment sections turned into wars. The drama she once sold on TV was now bleeding through every post on her feed, and she knew exactly what she was doing. Each post was timed when TLC promos dropped for the next episode. Every time the network tried to move on, she hijacked the spotlight back. Some cast members blocked her, others quietly liked her posts, afraid of being next. Even people who never met her started using her story to get clicks. Jasmine had gone from headline to hurricane. It didn't stop there. She started reposting old clips, editing them with cryptic captions. They cut this out for a reason. She tagged co-stars without explanation, liked hate comments about producers, then unliked them minutes later. It was psychological chess in public view. She wasn't trying to be loved anymore. She was trying to be unavoidable. For the network, it was a nightmare. They couldn't publicly respond without confirming she'd been fired. They couldn't ignore her either, because every post reignited fan outrage. Legal drafted cease and desist letters that never reached her inbox in time. It was like chasing smoke. The fan sympathy that once protected her started thinning. People got tired. The crying videos felt rehearsed. The threats started sounding empty. Her credibility cracked, and so did her image. What was once a love-hate fascination turned into fatigue. Commenters began asking, if you have proof, why not show it? And she never did. Behind the scenes, producers monitored her socials daily. Every time she hinted at leaking everything, lawyers braced for impact. But nothing major came out. Some thought she was bluffing. Others believed she was waiting, saving her receipts for maximum chaos. Either way, she wasn't moving on. She was orbiting the show that no longer wanted her, desperate to prove she still mattered. So the question became, was this revenge? Or the start of her comeback plan? The public kept asking the same question. If Jasmine was truly that destructive, why didn't TLC say something? Why not clear the air, shut down the rumors, and move on? The truth is, silence wasn't weakness. It was protection. For them, and in some ways, for her too. TLC had learned the hard way that when you fight a reality star online, you both lose. Every word becomes evidence. Every post feeds the fire. The network wasn't just protecting its image, it was protecting contracts, sponsors, and the fragile ecosystem that keeps the show running. Public statements invite discovery, legal rebuttals, and media frenzy. Silence buys time, and time keeps the money flowing. Behind the curtain, executives weren't calm. They were exhausted. Every department had been touched by the fallout: legal, PR, production, even casting. Dozens of meetings were held to manage the mess without letting it reach the press. Lawyers warned that any direct accusation against Jasmine could open the door for defamation suits. HR flagged emails, PR drafted statements that were deleted minutes later. No one wanted to be the name on record if this story blew wider. So they did what big networks do best: quietly erase. Editors restructured episodes to phase her out. Press kits removed her photos. Future promo plans were rewritten to focus on new couples. Slowly, her presence shrank until the season's rhythm recovered. From the outside, it looked like a normal storyline rotation. Inside, it was crisis management. Producers who'd worked with her for years had mixed emotions. Some were angry, furious that months of footage and effort had turned into damage control. Others felt sad. They'd seen the side of Jasmine that wasn't chaos. The moments between takes when she'd laugh with the crew or check her phone like a nervous teenager waiting for approval. They said fame twisted her, but the pressure from the franchise did too. TLC's silence was strategic, but it came at a cost. Crew members were told not to comment publicly, not even in defense. Some deleted their socials to avoid harassment. Castmates who tried to speak up were warned to stay out of it. For months, everyone lived in that uncomfortable quiet, pretending the show was fine while the entire set operated like a post-crisis recovery zone. Privately, a few higher-ups admitted they missed her. As chaotic as she was, Jasmine made people watch. She made them care. The kind of attention she generated couldn't be replicated. Numbers don't lie, and TLC is built on numbers. And quietly, inside that silence, some producers started asking if maybe, just maybe, she was worth bringing back. The longer you watch stories like Jasmine's, the clearer one truth becomes. Nobody self-destructs for no reason. It's rarely greed or ego alone. It's fear. Fear of being replaced, edited, forgotten. The very thing that made her famous was also what terrified her the most. Every time she trended, she felt alive. Every time the cameras stopped, she felt invisible. That's a dangerous addiction, and in her case, it became impossible to control. People close to her say she wasn't always like this. Early on, she listened, took notes, laughed with the crew, but fame does something subtle before it destroys. It rewires what feels normal. The applause becomes oxygen. The outrage becomes proof that people still care. Soon, quiet feels like rejection. That's when control turns from confidence into survival. On set, she watched herself being shaped by editors. Her tears became memes. Her anger became headlines. Her private moments became public entertainment. After a while, she couldn't tell where Jasmine the woman ended and Jasmine the character began. So she tried to take control of the edit. That's what the leaks, the power plays, the threats were all about. Not money, not vanity, but fear of being rewritten by someone else. It's hard to explain to people who haven't lived under that microscope. When millions are watching, one wrong angle can destroy you. And when every fight becomes content, you start to believe that chaos is the only way to stay relevant. TLC didn't invent that mindset. They perfected it. Jasmine learned it from them, then pushed it too far. In a strange way, her collapse feels inevitable. A person built by conflict eventually needs conflict to exist. The same audience that cheered for her drama also demanded her downfall, scrolling for updates on the story they helped create. She gave everything to keep their attention, even her own peace of mind. And when the cameras finally stopped, the silence was louder than any scream she'd ever delivered on screen. The saddest part? She might not understand that the show was over. The social media posts, the cryptic hints, the endless teasing, they're all symptoms of someone who doesn't know how to live without the noise. When fame becomes your heartbeat, losing it feels like death. And the question haunting everyone who ever worked with her is simple. Is Jasmine truly gone, or is she quietly preparing the next explosion? Every show has a Jasmine. Maybe not as loud, not as reckless, but the pattern repeats. The fame hits, the audience grows, and suddenly the drama that got them noticed becomes the thing that swallows them whole. What happened to her isn't an isolated fall. It's a cycle the franchise keeps feeding because chaos sells faster than honesty. Producers find new faces, new storylines, new heartbreaks. But behind those introductions, the same tension builds. Another castmate starts bending the rules, another learns how to weaponize sympathy, another figures out that tears on camera pay better than calm conversations. The names change, the outcome doesn't. Right now, someone else is already stepping into that danger zone. They're watching their follower count climb, reading comments about being the real star, and thinking they're untouchable. That's exactly what Jasmine thought before the ground vanished under her. The cameras will keep rolling, the fans will keep watching, and the machine will keep turning. It always does. Jasmine's story hurts because it's familiar. The rise, the spark, the overreach, the silence. She isn't the first to lose herself chasing validation, and she won't be the last. The next headline is already being written. Another couple, another scandal, another social media storm waiting to erupt. And somewhere, off camera, another star is already showing the same warning signs. The skipped shoots, the secret deals, the desperate need to control the narrative. You'll know the name soon enough. Because on TLC Drama Live, the drama never ends. It just changes faces.